This is a chat with the Executive Secretary CEO of the Lagos State Security Trust Fund, Dr. Abdurrazaq Balogun. We're discussing today on topical security issues in Nigeria as a nation and as it relates to Lagos State. And we'll start with a major concern of every citizen, which is considering the security crisis that's hit every part of the country. Can you really trace how we got to this point?
Thank you very much for coming. I will be speaking from my perspective as a citizen of this country and someone who I'll say has been around for a while, at least in the last 50 years. I can speak to a bit about this issue you've raised. For me, I think one of the most fundamental reasons I would allude to this would be decisiveness of successive governments, maybe based on ethnic reasons, based on religious reasons, and based on other factors why they have not been able to act decisively and have made this situation somewhat gotten out of hand. When this issue started, particularly in the northern part of Nigeria, it started like a joke, something that people just thought that just a swing of a finger of a hand, it would go away. But it kept on going on, and we kept on, allowing it to fester. And before we knew what was happening, it got out of hand. Particularly when you have people who are being recruited from very, very poor backgrounds, people who are very ill-educated, and they now use religion to push them to do things that I know as a Muslim is not acceptable in Islam. Because Islam teaches peace. Islam does not encourage when you kill people for no just cause. Islam has also even preached that we must coexist with our neighbors. And so, in my view, this is what has happened over the years, and now it has gone out of hand because we don't have enough personnel to curtail all these issues. From the insurgency came banditry, came kidnapping, came all those things that were very, very unheard of in our country. Some of us schooled in the north, and we knew how peaceful the north was. This same Maiduguri that has become the epicenter of terrorism was where I schooled, where we had a very, very good experience for the years we spent there. I schooled in Kaduna as well, a very peaceful town, very loving town. I schooled in Sokoto as well. So these things that is happening today are things that are very, very unheard of to most of us that know quite a bit about how the North was. And so I think the indecisiveness of successive governments and the lack of personnel, lack of morale, lack of the wherewithal to curtail it has gotten us to where we are today.
Thank you very much, sir. Speaking about lack of personnel and lack of morale, could that be just the lack of enthusiasm from the federal government? Because as we understand, the security of life and property is a responsibility of the federal government.
I think as the country is growing, the population keeps increasing, the challenges keep increasing, the costs of goods and services keeps increasing, and so there's a lot that the federal government is dealing with at the moment. And if you look at our constitution, the majority, the biggest part of functions of government is vested in the federal government, which some of us think that is too wielding for a federal government to handle. So issues like education, healthcare, and things like that on the concurrent list. So we're saying that what the federal government is handling is just too much. So they cannot completely deal and finance some of these core responsibilities, particularly security which is the main important function of government. And so you have the police, you have the armed forces, you now have a lot of paramilitary forces being created by way of legislation, that they're just being created, but there are no financial backings to, and no wherewithal to sustain them. So for me, I think if the federal government can just, focus on the armed forces, which is their core responsibility, and then, decentralize the other paramilitary forces, particularly the Nigerian police, I'm sure they will be able to face that their core competence, and will have more security in the state. And when I talk about issues of morale, lack of equipment, obviously if you are engaged and you are not paid well, your future is not guaranteed. You are not sure whether when you leave home today you're going to meet your family again, and your employers don't guarantee that your families will live well after you have gone and fought for the country. Of course, you're not going to put in all your best. So this is what we're talking about, that people that have chosen to defend Nigeria and they've chosen to secure us must be well remunerated, must be well equipped, must be well taken care of. The future of their family members left behind must also be well taken care of if and assured if anything happens to them.
So, sir, in about 7 years, we have experienced a total number of 18 jailbreaks, which 9 of them were successful. And the most recent one is the invasion of the Kuje prison. What does this pose to our security as a nation, sir?
I'm sure, it's one of the greatest embarrassments of our nation in recent times. Kuje Prison's Correctional Center is supposed to be in the Federal Capital Territory. It's just about less than 30 kilometers to the city center. And so you would expect that it's supposed to be even one of the most recent prisons, knowing full well that Abuja is a new city. So you'd expect that all manner of sophistication of prisons, of a correctional center, should be available in Kuje prisons. And so if you have this kind of, not if you have, we had a jailbreak at Kuje prisons, and you saw the number of inmates that were released, you saw the amount of people they said attacked that prison and released these inmates, is a national failure. Is something that one will not comprehend or cannot comprehend. But again, if you look at the way our systems work, for me it is not very surprising, because, and this is my personal opinion, that if you have a center like that, you would expect that it should be well fortified. The building should be such that it's very impenetrable. You would have all the modern gadgets to secure and monitor movements around the place. You would expect that you have enough watch towers, enough personnel, enough armory to challenge any incursion in that area. And from even a very, very far distance, you should be able to detect who and who is coming around that place. But I know for sure that the indiscipline that pervades our society, I'm sure you may find some of these officers complicit in this attack. You may also have a situation where there is a communication between prisoners and the outside world, which is very common. In this society, you have prisoners communicating with the outside world on mobile phone. It goes unabated. You find people walking outside and dealing with the outside world, buying food from the outside world. These are things that are very, very unusual and should never happen in a correctional center. But this is Nigeria, and it has shown clearly that if you say there have been 18 jailbreak attempts and 9 were successful, it tells you that something is fundamentally wrong. And by the way, a lot of these correctional centers were built during the colonial days. Some of them were built for just medium offenders, maybe for misdemeanors. They did not expect that someday you're going to have criminals that will be housed in those places. A place that is meant for maybe 100 people is housing about 250 people with not enough personnel and all that. Again, issues of personnel comes in, how motivated, how equipped are these prison wardens. So it speaks to what we have been talking about our country, and this Kuje invasion shows clearly that there's something absolutely wrong in this society as we speak.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. But knowing our infrastructure, our security infrastructure, particularly in Lagos State, where we have maximum security prisons, what proactive step and measure do you think we can put in place in Lagos State to avoid such occurrence?
You see, one thing people must understand is that you cannot continue to shift the burden of departments of government, of the federal government, on the state. The state has also its core responsibility to its citizenry. But I also know that there's a lot that Lagos State continues to do to support a lot of these paramilitary and sister agencies, particularly the Nigerian Correctional Service. I'm aware that we support them by providing vehicles to transport suspects to courts, because that's also one of the things that causes riots in correctional centers if people don't get their days in court. So we've provided a lot of vehicles and a lot of services like that to them. We've also created metal detectors. We gave them metal detectors at some point, so that again, it is only here that I see that you are going into a prison. There's no need to detect if you're carrying arms or you're carrying anything. So these are things that must be put in place. But we cannot continue to shift the burden of a federal agency to a state government. But I also know that because it is also in our collective self-interest to ensure that our prisons are safe in Lagos State, we have also built perimeter fences for them. We have done watch towers for them. We continue to also fortify the place with security agencies and armored personnel carriers, just in a bid to forestall any jailbreak. But I insist and I maintain that these agencies get their budgets, they get their appropriations and allocations. I think that the Ministry of Interior should look inwards and look at ways and means by which they can protect the Nigerian prison and the Nigerian correctional centers, and they cannot continue to shift that burden on state governments.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. I'd like to also ask you that you will also recall that the terror group that hijacked the Kaduna Abuja train and kidnapped passengers requested that for the release of some numbers of suspects in exchange for the victims that they kidnapped. Do you think that there is a link,
a correlation
between the invasion and that request?
Well, I get your question, but really it's not in my place I don't have that clue. I can only make conjectures, and I think at this point it's not too good to make conjectures, but we can all see what is happening in our country. I mean, a train invasion just happened. We still have people inside that have not been released yet. Something happens again in Kuje prisons. Something happened again to the convoy of our president. I mean, these things are looking so much alike, and it's very baffling that there must be a very high level of sophistication in the ways these people operate. But I think the Nigerian state is more superior than these people. And so I'm very concerned about why all this is happening and they seem to be going scot-free. I think it's high time we took a very decisive step. I continue to maintain that irrespective of whose horse is God, I think the Nigerian state should take that action now, because it's getting too many. And it seems that we're just helpless. And we keep on just making statements on TV. And as we make those statements on TV, the next day, you're not sure what is going to happen again. So for me, I cannot speak whether there's a correlation, but it's clear to me that something is happening, and it's happening simultaneously. It also happened again in Owo. Let's not forget that. So a few weeks ago, Owo was also attacked. These are things that we have never ever heard before. We did not even envision it. So I think, in my view, whilst I cannot say whether there's a correlation, but certainly we can see the resemblance and the similarities.
Sir, talking about the correlation of these incidents, what can you speak to the intelligence of our security agencies?
Again, you're asking just a civilian here. I know, like I continue to say, that Nigeria is a very, very sophisticated country in many regards. And I know that our military also have been adjudged as one of the best in the world. I have people who have gone for peacekeeping. A colleague of mine, who is a major general, is handling the African region, maybe peacekeeping force Major General Khalifa, my schoolmate, my classmate. I have a lot of them, generals working at different parts of the country and all across the world doing great things. So I know that we have the capacity, I believe strongly. I just don't know whether there's a handshake. Whether you tell me something, I'm acting immediately on it, or I'm procrastinating and thinking that, oh, as we always say in Nigeria, by the special grace of God, it won't happen. I don't think it's a question of asking God that it won't happen. I think that when these informations are decimated to other arms of security forces, I think they should be taken seriously, and I think there should be a handshake between all our security forces.
Thank you very much, sir. That seems to be a good insight, even from the citizens' perspective, not even as a security agents, and we can speak to these things on and on, and particularly touching about why they make promises today and we see no actions tomorrow, which brings us to we having an election as a nation in 2023. Every political party is out there going up to clinch elective office.
Right.
And the brazen attack of these terrorists, we keep hearing them day after day. Shouldn't security agencies and even the political parties come together to seek strategies that would enhance peace and even promote people coming out to fulfill their rights in elections of new leaders?
Well, I mean, this is, as we approach the 2023 elections, I know for free that security will be the first on the agenda, probably even higher than the economy of our country. Because without a robust security system, no country can thrive. There's no economic gains you will make. There's no direct investments that will come in. There's no prosperity. People cannot work. Look at what is happening in Anambra State. Sit at home order and things like that. And I'm not sure what's happening in the Southeast now. So it is very clear that security will be on the agenda of all the political parties that are running in 2023. But I know that the current political party in Nigeria, particularly the aspirant, Ashwadi Bola Ahmed Tinubu, running for the presidency of Nigeria under APC, I believe that there's a lot of homework and consultation that he would have been making by now. And I'm also sure, because I know how highly intelligent he is, that there are so many consultations, so many things that he feels should be the proper thing to do. But because you are not yet in government, certainly you cannot do some of these things. So I'm clear in my mind that security will be on the front burner. I believe that there's a lot that we can all put together to make this country safe. I'm speaking to you here as a civilian. I don't have any background training in security. But from what over the years I've worked here, I can tell you that there's a lot that I have in my head that I know that if we implement some of these things, there's a lot that we can achieve. Some of these things are not rocket science. Some of these things are low-hanging fruits. You cannot have a system where people are not identified. Well, you don't know where you're coming from, we don't know where you're going. It's not acceptable anywhere. You cannot have a society where people just say, oh, because of freedom of movement, freedom of association, you just drive into a state, you are not sure whether you even have a place to stay or a boat to stay. These are things that in a very subtle manner that can be checked and addressed. So I believe that security will be on the front burner. The new National Assembly coming in, even the States Assembly, they know they don't have a choice than to do things that will keep everybody safe, whether it will be consumed. So it's a general thing for everyone and it's a very serious issue.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, Dr. Abdurrazaq Balogun, the Executive Secretary of the Lagos State Security Trust Fund. And sir, I'd like to ask you, we all know that the foundation of every flourishing city is the security architecture. However, Lagos State being the economic and the socio-economic hub of the country, how does the growing insecurity in the country threaten the state and, at extension, the effort of the Lagos State Security Trust Fund?
I would say I'll take it from the holistic point of view that we know that in Lagos State we are not insulated from all the security issues of Nigeria, because we as a state, we have all manners of representation in this state, and that's what speaks to the greatness of Lagos State. But we've had very, very proactive leadership, very successive proactive leadership, and I can speak currently under Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu that we are constantly taking proactive steps to forestall these things. A lot of them we cannot say outside. A lot of security issues are things that are done, behind the scene. We've had massive collaboration of security commanders and security forces sent to Lagos State. But also, there's a limit to that control. We have supported all our security agencies and we continue to support them day in, day out. Just 2-3 days ago, despite the reducing resources of the Security Trust Fund, we just provided over 1,000 raincoats and rain boots for our security agencies. People can look at it that it's small, it's not significant, but how do you perform your function or perform your role in the rains without any protective gear? So these are things that we do in Lagos State that makes us very proactive, understanding the fact that we're not insulated. All our waterways are also very secure. We know how much we are supporting the Marine Police and the Navy and all that. So there's a lot that we are doing in Lagos State, but again, we are not insulated. We are mindful of it, and we are taking all necessary steps to forestall and prevent such attacks in Lagos State.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I'd like to also, let you speak to Lagosians about the Lagos State Security Trust Fund. Since its establishment, clearly shows that without the fund, the security architecture in Lagos State would have been crippled. Don't you think it is a resource drain for the state, providing for the federal security agencies rather than pushing for state police in Lagos State?
Well, it's a matter of fact that LSSTF has contributed immensely to the success story of Lagos State. And it has contributed to the extent that it is a very, very dynamic and very proactive organization that is also very visionary. But like a lot of things that we wish to accomplish, we are constrained by lack of resources, because we are an organization that depends solely on the goodwill of corporations and citizens of Lagos State. And sometimes these donations are not forthcoming, so we have to manage the meager resources that we have. But we have shown that with little resources and with very, very prudent management and application of these resources, there's a lot you can do. A lot of people will see our vehicles on the street and think that's the only thing we do. No. The challenge of Nigeria today is the fact that we only just procure equipment. We don't even plan for the maintenance and the spares, which is what keeps anything going, the system going. When nobody speaks about issues of training, we try to continue to train our personnel, even though they are all federal agents, but we understand that within the confines of our law and our constitution, we must make do with these agents that we have in Lagos. And I must say that over the years, they have been very, very, a lot of them are very, very hardworking, because they believe that the much Lagos State is doing for them, they should also reciprocate, and that's what they have been doing. So, in my view, the Security Trust Fund is a very, very veritable organization to the success of our security agencies in Lagos State, because there are so many recurring expenditure that if you had a system that you have to go through the bureaucratic system of maybe you need something in Lagos State, you have to write to Abuja, Abuja has to write back, it can take 3-4 months. We have one in our hands right now. We have something that we want to do almost immediately, but we are waiting for clearance from Abuja. And this is what the Security Trust Fund does not have. Once we get any request and we can meet that expenditure, we we deal with it almost immediately. So I think it is a very, very successful organization, and I also know that most states of the Federation have also come to replicate what we are doing in Lagos State.
So talking about resources, which is a very important part of any security or any venture, we need resources per time. At the last town hall meeting with the governor, it was the 15th edition, I understand, and you lamented about poor donations to the fund and it being a major reason why the fund has not been able to do as much as it would wish. But going through the law of the Lagos State Security Trust Fund, there's a provision to levy. Why has the fund not taken this route in sourcing for donations or in sourcing for funds?
I understand your question very clearly, and in the last 15 years, we have not activated that section of our law that created the trust fund, because we felt that we could reach out to well-meaning Nigerians. Lagos has the population, Lagos has the corporations, the organizations, and we felt that by reaching out to them, by seeing what we do, by being a part of it, because if you look at the board of trustees of the trust fund, it's all about 85% of the private sector, which means that the people on the board are people who are successful in their various endeavors. We expect that with them on the board, and also with the fact that we have been doing this for 15 years, they've been seeing what we do. We're extremely transparent, we're extremely prudent. Our auditors, our international auditors that lay bare all our accounts on a yearly basis, and we render stewardship of what we do. We expect that people should be able to buy into it and also support the trust fund willingly without having to chase them up and down. But it's not, because it's also a voluntary donation. I mean, it's their prerogative to do that. But I still feel that sometimes corporate social responsibility does not mean that, all right, you may decide that you want to support sports, which is very good, because there's a lot corporations who are doing. But what we continue to preach to them is that a fraction of whatever your donations may be, and it's not only cash donations. If you're a car manufacturer, give us cars. If you do apparels, give us apparels for these operatives. If you are a training school or something like that, offer trainings for them. What we're saying is that all these things that are donated to us will become whole and to make the security system in Lagos very robust. So we continue to do that. Successive governments, since Governor Fashola created this trust fund, we've continued to reach out, and it may interest you that in 2007, when this organization was created, people had a lot of enthusiasm. They came out, they donated a lot of money. I remember looking at those books when I came in here, seeing 100 million in 2007. 100 million naira in 2007 is close to, if I'm not mistaken now, maybe close to about 70. 100 million naira will maybe close to about maybe $2-3 million, if my calculation is right. And then look at it now, 15 years after, 100 million naira is barely maybe I'm not sure, maybe even up to $200,000, and it shows you how exponential prices have gone. And so, because of the rate of use of these assets, we need to replenish them from time to time. And so we still believe strongly that corporations and individuals should continue to buy, because it's all in our interest. If anything happens in the state government is trying its best, or trying her best. The governor of Lagos State is trying his best, but there's a limit to how much you can do with the available resources. And so we have created a trust fund that is highly accountable and highly transparent, that we believe that whatever you donate to this trust is well used and well accounted for. So we still believe that we'll continue to reach out to well-meaning Lagosians and Nigerians. But again, as we go on, there's really nothing stopping us from invoking those levies in Lagos State, because everywhere in the world that I have been, there's nothing that is free. I just found out that in Chicago, for instance, if you have a place like a convention center, maybe they allocate 2 or 3 police officers to that convention center on a regular basis. But if there's a show or there's a convention or there is a concert and you need 100 more officers, you're going to pay for that 97. In Chicago, in America, nothing is free. If you look at your phone bill, you're going to see there is very fine prints of, cost of security levy or 911 calls or, all these emergency services. So there's nothing that is free. And I think that is one of the ways we can continue to sustain this laudable initiative of government.
Sir, I'll take you back a bit because I know that the Lagos State Security Trust Fund is a member of the State Security Council. It's been over 4 weeks now since the reinforcement of the Okada ban in some local government areas in Lagos State. However, there have been reports of some skeletal activities of Okada operators in these banned areas. How do you speak to the efficiency of enforcement?
Well, first of all, that ban, I would say it has been very successful in this state, in those areas that are banned. I mean, I crisscross about 2 or 3 of those areas that are banned, and I can tell you that there is about 95% compliance. We have some recalcitrant ones who still sneak at night and do those things, but 95% is excellent in any score. So I think people are beginning to adjust to the fact that you don't need an Okada to take you from A to B in just a space of 1 minute. You can walk. It's even a good exercise. People walk all over the world, and it's very, very dangerous and archaic for people to be moving around Okada in a big city, a boisterous city like Lagos. It is very, very backward. And I think in my view, it has been very, very good. Crime rate, I believe, has reduced tremendously. And even in those areas that Okadas are not banned, because they are not able to move into the highways and into major roads, a lot of them are parking shop. So I think it's a very, very good thing, because you see, government has a responsibility to see and act on things that citizens don't see. That is why government or certain people are elected, and we relinquish our sovereignty to them on our behalf, to act on our behalf. So when government comes out with policies, people must first of all know that it is in the best interest of citizens. They should not always think that whatever government does is always one thing or the other behind it, because we see a lot than what the citizens see. And also because people are always in this issue of self, and government does not act in that manner. It's all in the collective interest of the people. So I think Okada has been very, very fantastic, the ban, and as a member of Security Council, like I said earlier in one of the questions you asked me, is that this government is very proactive. All the Security Councils that I've attended, the governor has never delegated. He has always sat on it, no matter the hours. He will sit on it and make sure that we reach out and conclude on those meetings, irrespective of his busy schedule. So I think, in my view, the Okada ban has been one of the best things that has happened to us. You can even see the air. Everywhere is free now. Everywhere is easy. You go to Ibobi now, you're not going to be seeing accidents where people have broken their legs and broken their limbs. I think it's a very, very good thing. And with time, people will adjust and know that it's in the best interest of all of us.
So we'll wrap up with this. It's a known fact that you're not a security expert. We take that.
I accept that. I know that. I don't claim to be one.
But over the years, with your engagements with top echelons of various security agencies, as the CEO of the Lagos State Security Trust Fund, can you share a way forward towards enhancement of security of Nigeria?
Well, I mean, from my perspective, again, I reiterate, it's my perspective because I don't have the powers to direct. But the security agencies of our country is vested under the exclusive list of our constitution, which means it's under the federal purview. And we have a commander-in-chief of the armed forces who directs. So their operations, I do not know. But I only know with my interaction that you cannot work in silos. You're not going to get the meaningful effect you need. You need to work together as a team. You must have a resolve that this state must not perish. And so a military officer or an army officer is not superior to a road safety corps marshal. A naval officer should not see himself as being superior to a civilian like me. We have different callings, and those callings are what brings about the entirety of a nation and the success of a nation. Once we start to think that way, and we understand the responsibility is a collective one, and we understand that there's no superiority between each forces, that we are all for the collective good of the society, I'm sure we'll make a lot of progress. And we must understand one thing very clearly, that the population of Nigeria when I was growing up, some 30 years ago or 40 years ago, is not the same population now. And so those things we used to do, that maybe you could drive from Lagos to Ikeja or drive at night without seeing a police officer, these things have changed. We must start to be proactive in how we approach things. We must understand that a state of 21 million people will certainly need its own security forces. And knowing full well that Lagos is a center of excellence, a littoral state all surrounded by water, very, very small landmass, but yet highly populous, with about 40-60% of the headquarters of the corporations in this state, representing all tribes in this state, home to the international airports, home to the seaports, home to the main railway stations in our country, home to the international borders of our country. It tells you that we need to do something different in Lagos. And so when people talk about, oh, we're not right for a state police, we're not right for this, let us make Lagos a pilot scheme for such, and let us see whether it will not work. After all, we have a very effective Lagos Neighborhood Safety Corps, the best that I've seen in the country, well uniformed, well kitted. We have the last mile is there. We have the kick against indiscipline marshals are there. We have all different manners of people, of agencies that are doing one thing or the other to keep the city safe and secure. So I think, in my view, Lagos is ripe enough to have a state police, and I'm sure in the next coming administration, and our presidential aspirant has said it, Ashwad Bola mentioned, and that's his priority, that we're going to decentralize this thing, and I think all Nigerians should buy into it for a prosperous country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We really appreciate this time you spent with us.
Thank you very much.
We look forward to coming to interact with you.
Thank you very much. Like I said, most of the things I've spoken about are my personal opinion, but I know those opinions are not wrong. I'm sure a lot of Nigerians share this opinion of mine. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.